Have you ever really stopped to think about lawnmowers? I mean, how much money could possibly be involved in just keeping grass tidy? Well, what if I told you that Humble Lawnmower is actually like the cornerstone of a massive multi-billion-dollar global industry? Seriously, that thing in your garage, part of a market pulling in tens of billions. Today, we're doing a deep dive. We're looking at the Global Lawnmower Market forecast to 2033. We've got this really comprehensive report from Cognitive Market Research, and our mission basically is to cut through all that data. We want to find the surprising growth trends, figure out where the hotspots are, and just understand what's driving this industry people don't often talk about. Think of it as your shortcut to getting smart on a surprisingly big market.
And that's why these forecasts are so valuable. They're not just numbers on a page. They really paint a picture, don't they, of economic shifts, changing lifestyles, sometimes even shifts in population trends globally. The demand for something specific, like a lawnmower, can actually hint at much bigger things happening.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because the scale here and the growth trajectory, it's pretty eye-opening. So the report says, back in 2021, the global market, already nearly $29 billion. That's $28.785 billion. But here's where it really gets interesting, the projection. Over $36 billion by 2025. So $36.31 billion. And then, get this, by 2033, a massive $57.777 billion. We're talking, I mean, it's nearly doubling in just over a decade. That's a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR of almost 6%, 5.978% specifically.
Wow. And that kind of consistent upward trend, it's not just random. It really points to a robust fundamental demand when you say. It suggests this isn't just a temporary blip. It's steady expansion year after year. When you see that in what seems like a mature product category, well, it makes you wonder what global factors are really pushing that sustained demand, maybe more people living in suburbs worldwide, or, a bigger focus on how properties look.
That's a really good point. Okay, so with that big picture in mind, let's zoom in. Where is all this my money being made? We'll kick things off with the biggest market by revenue, North America. Back in 2021, that market alone was worth over $11 billion, $11.456 billion, and it's projected to hit more than $22 billion by 2033. $22.198 billion with a CAGR around 5.6%, 5.581% to be exact. Now, breaking that down, the U.S. is obviously the giant here, projected to reach over $16.8 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of about 5.4%. But here's something that jumped out at me. Canada. It shows, more noticeable growth. Start smaller, yes, around $1.3 billion in 2021, but it's expected to more than double, hitting nearly $2.9 to $1 billion by 2033, and its CAGR significantly higher, over 7.2%. That's 7.21%. Mexico is also in the mix, $1.295 billion going to $2.468 billion. Solid growth there too, CAGR around 5.2%.
That Canadian number is interesting, isn't it? A notably higher growth rate than its neighbors. You have to ask, what might be driving that faster pace in Canada specifically? Does the report hint at anything? Well, the report doesn't spell out every single local factor, but typically when you see a faster growth rate like Canada's, it often signals things like significant suburban sprawl, maybe more first-time home buyers entering the market, or perhaps even specific city planning trends that really emphasize green spaces. Could also be, faster adoption of newer tech like robotic mowers or those high-end electric ones. That drives up the market value.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe, it's the second largest market. In 2021, it was over $8 billion, $8.29 billion. The projection for 2043, over $16 billion, 16.2, one of $6 billion actually. Also growing steadily. CGR around 5.6%, 5.569%. Looking inside Europe, Germany's the biggest player, about $1.4 billion in 2021, heading towards $2.5 billion, $2.537 billion by 2033. But its growth rate is a bit lower, under 5%, 4.811%. Then you've got countries like France showing stronger growth. They start just under $1 billion to $0.988 billion and are projected to hit $2.1 billion. That's a CGR over 6.8%, 6.813%. The UK is significant to $1.048 billion to $1.872 billion, but with a CAGR closer to Germany's under 5%, 4.762%. Neither shows a good growth, over 6% to CAGR, $2.61 billion to 125B. Here's another standout bit. The rest of Europe category, that segment actually has the highest CGR in Europe, over 7.1%, $1.691 billion, potentially growing to $3.797 billion. That's quite a jump.
It really is a diverse picture in Europe. You have these sort of established core markets growing steadily, and then these other areas, especially that rest of Europe catch-all, showing surprising speed. It suggests, very different things are happening regionally, maybe new housing booms in certain areas or changes in property ownership. Could even be like shifting views on hiring landscaping services in those specific countries. It's definitely a patchwork.
Absolutely. Okay, now, if you thought Europe was varied, well, hold on, because Asia Pacific, this is where the growth story
really hits high gear. This whole region is projected to have the highest overall KGR globally. We're talking over 7.1%, 7.157%. It jumps from just over $5.4 billion in 2021 to a projected $12 billion by 2033, right? Within APAC, China is the biggest market there. $1.692 billion in 2021, projected $3.534 billion. Strong growth, over 6.7% CGR. Japan's very close behind, similar numbers. $1.20 to $2.60 to beat, 6.769% CGR. But the real powerhouses for like rapid expansion, look at India, a really robust KGR over 8%, 8.076%. It goes from $0.935 billion to nearly $2.3 billion, more than doubling. And then there's Singapore. Get this, the highest individual country or segment CGR mentioned anywhere, an incredible 8.778%. Smaller market, $177 million, but projected to hit $456 million. The Southeast Asia segment as a whole is also showing really strong growth, over 8% CGR as well, 0.638B to 1.538B. And okay, if you want the absolute fastest growth anywhere, it's this tiny rest of APAC segment.
Just really small, like $36 million in 2021. But projected to have an absolutely astounding CAGR of almost 10%, 9.874%, going to $324 million by 2033. It's nearly a tenfold increase.
Wow. That's phenomenal growth. And it really underscores what's happening in Asia Pacific, especially in those pockets, India, Singapore, Southeast Asia, and that rest of APAC. It clearly points to, rapidly shifting economic landscapes. We're talking increased urbanization, definitely an expanding middle class, rising incomes, all driving demand in these emerging economies. Like in India, for instance, you see this boom in planned communities, gated developments with lots of green space. That creates concentrated demand for lawn care. And Singapore, well, maybe their focus on efficiency is leading to faster adoption of advanced tech. Robotic mowers, perhaps. It's fascinating.
Okay, the journey continues. Let's head to South America. Another region showing pretty significant expansion. Its market was valued just under $2 billion in 2021, $1.929 billion. And it's projected to reach over $4.3 billion, $4.316 billion, by 2033. That's another strong CAGR, over 7%, 7.15%. Brazil leads the way there. It's the largest market. $674 million in 2021, projected to $1.462 billion. TGR around 6.6%. But definitely keep an eye on Argentina and Colombia. Both have really impressive KGRs, over 7.7%. Argentina's market, 252 MIBs to 601 in Eberin, and Colombia's 162 MIBs to 384 MIBs are both set to more than double. Chile, interestingly, shows a lower growth rate within the region, around 4.5% in CGR.
Right, and that strong growth in South America, especially Argentina and Colombia, it likely connects directly to things like faster urban development, more residential areas popping up, and maybe just seem to reflect a broader economic upswing in those particular countries, leading to more investment in property and, well, its upkeep.
Okay, finally, let's touch on the Middle East and Africa. Two important emerging market areas. The Middle East market is growing, projected to hit over $1.8 billion by 2033, $1.808 billion from $1.065 billion in 2021. But it actually has the lowest regional CDR, around 4.5%, 4.546%. Saudi Arabia is the biggest market within the ME, $415 to $688, CNGR 4.4%, though the UAE shows a slightly higher growth rate, around 5.755%. Then you have Africa is projected for more robust growth overall, like CAGR over 6.4%, 6.411%. It jumps from about $633 million in 2021 to nearly $1.44 billion, $1.439 billion by 2033. South Africa is the largest single market on the continent, 202 million to 445 million, 6.047%. But again, just like in Europe and APAC, the rest of Africa segment is driving the highest regional CDR here over 6.7%, 6.759%.
Yeah, and while these regions, the Middle East and Africa, are smaller in terms of, overall market share compared to North America or Europe, that consistent growth, especially in parts of Africa and the UAE, points to developing demand patterns that are really worth watching. These markets often feature early-stage urbanization, ongoing infrastructure projects, growing consumer bases. They represent significant future potential as their economies continue to mature.
So after all that,
Yeah.
what's the big picture? I mean, if you came into this thinking lawnmowers were just static, maybe a bit boring, hopefully that view has shifted. We've really uncovered a surprisingly dynamic, fast-growing global market for what many people just see as an everyday tool.
Exactly. To just sort of recap the key takeaways. The global market, projected to nearly double between 2021 and 2033. That's incredibly healthy. Asia Pacific and South America, clearly leading the charge on growth rates, showing massive expansion potential, likely tied to those bigger economic shifts. And within those regions, you have specific standouts. India, Singapore, Canada, Argentina, Colombia, all driving really strong growth. And that rest of APAC segment, wow, projected highest growth rate anywhere, suggests huge untapped potential. Plus, even the big established markets like North America and Europe, they're still expanding steadily, just maybe at different speeds, so there's still plenty of opportunity even there.
It really drives home the point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes the things you think are niche or just everyday items turn out to be anything but small. There's this huge multi-billion-dollar economy humming away, quite literally, in our backyards.
Yeah.
We've gone from just looking at numbers to hopefully understanding some of the complex dynamics playing out globally, country by country, region by region. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into the, well, surprisingly powerful world of the lawnmower market. It kind of makes you wonder what other everyday industries are hiding these kinds of impressive growth stories, right?
Absolutely. And maybe one final thought for you to consider. Seeing the strong global growth, especially in those emerging economies and the rest of categories, what does that tell us? What does it suggest about changing lifestyles, about urbanization, maybe even about environmental priorities globally? And how might all that influence innovation in what seems like a simple product? You know, pushing towards more sustainable options or robotics or smarter tech in the years ahead. Something to think about next time you see a lawn being mowed.
Have you ever stopped to think how something is every day is mowing the lawn, how that could be right at the heart of a really dynamic, pretty innovative industry? Today, we're doing a deep dive into the global lawnmower market, and I think what we find might actually shift your perspective a bit. It's really not just about cutting grass. It's a whole sector going through some major transformations. So for this deep dive, we're looking at insights from excerpts of this report, The Dynamic Global Lawnmower Market. It's by Cognitive Market Research. And our mission really is to unpack what's pushing this market forward, the growth drivers, but also the challenges holding it back, and some pretty surprising trends that are reshaping its future. Think of it as a shortcut to getting up to speed on an industry that's, a lot more complex than it looks.
Yeah, and what's really insightful when you focus on sources like this, even for what seems like a niche topic, is how those underlying forces, maybe it's changes in consumer behavior, maybe technology leaps, or just broader lifestyle shifts, they reveal patterns that go way beyond just this one market. It really helps us, connect some much bigger dots.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Let's start with what's actually fueling the growth here.
Yeah.
The report points to two main drivers.
Yeah.
And the first one, honestly, was a bit of a surprise to me. It's the huge surge in sports activities globally.
Right. Not the first thing you think of.
Exactly. But when you think about it, lawn mowers are absolutely critical, right, for keeping sports fields safe and just playable. We're talking everything from the local school field to huge professional stadiums.
Quality and safety are paramount there.
And the numbers really back this up. The Sports and Fitness Industry Association said over 236 million Americans did at least one sports activity back in 2022.
That's a massive number.
Huge. And then you look at specific sports, like pickleball.
Oh, yeah, pickleball's exploded.
It's seen, get this, 158.6% jump in participation in just 3 years. Astonishing.
Wow.
So this boom in activity, it just naturally means more demand for well-kept fields, which directly bumps up demand for, high-performance mowers for schools, cities, commercial outfits.
Yeah.
But what does that kind of growth tell us about who is actually buying these mowers?
That's a great point. It really shows how a recreational trend, like more people playing sports, translates directly into, real economic impact and demand for actual industrial gear. It suggests maybe a shift, more institutional buyers, perhaps.
Like schools, parks departments.
Exactly. School districts, city parks, maybe pro sports teams. They're investing heavily. And that shapes what manufacturers need to focus on, right? Bigger machines, more durable ones, maybe specialized stuff.
Not just the mower for your backyard.
Right. It's less about the individual homeowner model in this context and links up to public health infrastructure and community spending.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not just us in our gardens. There's this big institutional demand too. Now let's switch to the second big growth factor. This one probably feels a bit closer to home for a lot of us.
Yeah.
It's the gardening boom that's still going strong.
Ah, yes, the green thumbs.
Totally. And the stats are pretty impressive. Sales for gardening supplies and equipment projected to hit $127 billion in 2024.
Wow, $127 billion.
Incredible, right? And more than 38% of U.S. households say they plan to spend more on gardening. So this whole culture of home gardening, making our outdoor spaces look nice, It's clearly driving sales, both for regular home mowers and, maybe some heavier duty commercial ones too. People are prioritizing how their yards look, thinking about environmental wellness.
And it feels like it's more than just, keeping up appearances, doesn't it? This gardening thing, it really taps into a bigger lifestyle shift, especially recently. People valuing their homes, their personal outdoor space more and more.
Like creating a sanctuary.
Exactly. A sanctuary, connecting with nature, maybe making an active choice for well-being. And if home is a sanctuary, maybe manufacturers need to think about marketing differently, like less about raw power and more about quiet operation, user-friendliness, or even like smart home integration.
That's a really sharp point. Does the report touch on that?
Wow.
It sort of hints at it, especially when we get to the smart tech trends later. It's definitely a subtle shift away from just get the job done. But okay, here's where it gets tricky. Despite all this growth, the market faces some real headwinds too, some notable restraints limiting things.
Okay.
The first big one, the report details, is just intense competition.
The classic saturated market.
Totally. Loads of manufacturers all pushing tons of models and features.
Yeah.
And that leads to, well, price wars. Aggressive ones.
Which hammers profit margins.
Exactly. It makes it genuinely hard for companies to make their products stand out. And it's tough for new companies to break in too.
Yeah.
Plus it can kind of stifle R&D investment, right? If everyone's just focused on price.
That does raise a big question for how the market evolves, doesn't it? When competition is that fierce and it's mainly about price, does the report give any clues about how companies are trying to break out of that? Are they finding ways to innovate around price, or does the pressure just kill off the big ideas?
That's exactly the tightrope they're walking. The report suggests it often forces companies to find efficiencies, in how they make things. But yeah, true R&D, the really innovative stuff, can suffer. And that ties right into the second restraint, price-conscious consumers.
Especially in certain markets.
Yeah, particularly in emerging markets, the report notes.
Yeah.
Lots of people are just going for the budget-friendly, lower-end options.
Yeah.
Understandably.
Sure.
But that creates a big hurdle for the brands trying to sell premium mowers, the ones with advanced features. They struggle against that sheer demand for affordability.
It absolutely creates that kind of dual market you mentioned earlier. You've got one group valuing the latest tech sustainability features, and then this other huge segment where cost is just, the number one factor.
Right.
So companies have to be really careful where they put their resources. It means innovation might take longer to catch on widely, unless they can figure out how to make those innovations cheaper, fast.
It's definitely a balancing act. Okay, but despite those challenges, let's pivot to the really exciting stuff. The trends that are reshaping this market right now and looking ahead to 2025, this is where we really see the future of lawn care taking shape.
Okay, the future bit. Let's hear it.
The report highlights this really interesting convergence. It's like landscape customization meets clean power alternatives and smart automation all coming together.
Right, the trifecta.
Yeah, and one of the biggest shifts is the fast adoption of robotic lawn mowers. AI-powered ones.
The robot mowers, they're really taking off now.
They really are. They're not just gimmicks anymore. They have features like GPS navigation, AI mapping. So the mower isn't just bumping around randomly. It learns your yard's layout, avoids trees, optimizes its path.
Like a Roomba for your grass.
Exactly. Like a Roomba for your lawn.
Oh.
And you manage it all from your smartphone. Minimal effort, precise cut.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, these smart lawn tools, they're just a perfect example of the broader automation trend, right? We see it everywhere in daily life, in smart homes.
Totally.
People want convenience, efficiency through tech. The lawn's just another area for that.
And it's not just about being smart. It's also about being green.
The sustainability angle.
Yes. A really significant shift towards eco-friendly options. Battery-powered mowers, even solar-charged models, they're getting ground fast, replacing the old gas guzzlers. And the benefits are obvious, right? Fewer emissions, much quieter.
Definitely quieter.
And just a more sustainable way to operate.
Which lines up perfectly with, the growing environmental awareness everywhere.
Yeah.
And that big push for sustainable tech across pretty much every industry.
Right.
Consumers aren't just buying a mower, they're sort of buying into a lifestyle.
Right.
Minimizing their footprint, even in the yard.
It feels like a tangible way people can make a difference.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, and finally, there's the rise of modular multifunctional tools.
The Swiss Army knife approach.
Exactly. The report gives examples like ride-on mowers, where you can easily swap attachments. So it's not just a mower. It can be an aerator, a mulcher.
Oh, wow.
Even a snow remover in the winter.
That makes a lot of sense. Versatility.
Yeah, it's responding directly to what consumers want versatile all-season gear, maximize usefulness, maybe save some space and cash too.
So if we kind of wrap up these trends,
Yeah.
they're basically changing how people think about yard work, right? Moving it away from being just a chore towards something more automated, eco-friendly, and versatile. It's all about efficiency, sustainability, convenience, reflecting much bigger shifts in what people value.
So what does this all boil down to? Our deep dive really shows the lawnmower market is, well, it's anything but simple. It's this surprisingly dynamic sector, driven by this fascinating mix of things, recreational booms like pickleball, growing environmental concerns, and these really cutting-edge tech advances in automation and clean energy. Just goes to show, even in seemingly everyday things, there's a whole world of surprising insights waiting if you just look a little closer. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe as you go about your day, here's a thought to chew on. How many other industries that seem, pretty mundane on the surface might be going through similar surprising transformations driven by these big cultural shifts and cool new tech that maybe we just haven't looked closely enough at yet?